Hey everybody. Moved on. I believe yesterday. It's so funny. I just watched the video from yesterday. Yeah. So yesterday, all I had was the text. I did. All I had was the raw data showing, and I also additionally had. Let's see. Show edit form. Let's collapse that. I'm gonna have to fix that bug, but um, the I also had the old-fashioned form fields below, and now so I removed those form fields and I integrated them into this table. So like if I hit show edit forms now, I can edit these guys. I also added the name. The names were already there, so that was good. And then I added these expandable things so I can go down to like this bottom one, which is currently green, and I could just change it to what is that, like aqua color, or change it to black or white. So that's pretty cool. Um, but so I think this thing's coming along nicely. We're pretty close. I think maybe the next steps will be to add different shapes, which would be pretty like a huge step forward. But to get this done was very, very similar. It's kind of like a repeat of lights. So if you saw the lights, you probably already know how to do that. So I'm just going to kind of go step by step instead of sort of an architectural view, more of a just line by line view. Um, but I brought in the common modules. That was specifically for, what was that? Let me look at the HTML. There was this that was for the NG. There's like an a directive for the column uh, for the class assignment. I believe it's ng class. Control F G class. Yeah. So that will not work without that common control. You always end up needing the common control, or I almost always end up needing a common module, uh, just because it's tons of common stuff. And then I brought in the slider module, and that was for this to work. So these sliders will work, and this is from our well, we'll see. This is our where are you? I guess I already brought that. Had already brought. Oh yeah, actually I'd already brought it in for. This was our common color picker. The old fashion forms also use that, so that's why that was already there. I did go through a refactor where I removed this edit zero. So like I was kind of mentioning how like if I go into raw dated mode, you can still see this open. I call that an interest-free loan of uh, tech debt, because honestly, this is going to be just, it doesn't matter when we fix this, it's going to be the same amount of effort. It's going to be pretty simple. Um, any developer that would ever work on this would be comfortable with um, the Angular table, and this is just a functional or material table, and this is just a function of that. So that it won't be harder. Like in a year, it'll be just as easy as it is today. But on the other hand, so our old-fashioned concept of editing of building this, it had this concept of using edit ID in order to determine whether something was being worked on. But then when we went to lights, in order to get it to work with the tables, we went with expanded light ID. And so that was a sort of a change. So it was like, okay, I'm going to stay consistent with that. But then edit ID was no longer necessary. And this most tempting thing in the world to just leave things that like edit ID, mesh dictionary, things like that you are changing, just leave them in there, because even though you don't need them anymore. But in the future, it's going to be so much harder to figure out whether there's some unintended side effect of removing those things. Whereas today, since I'm in this, my mind space is in this right now, it's a lot easier just to take the time and just remove these things and fix any little bugs that appear, because I know there's not some other component somewhere or some other thing that's dependent on this edit ID being passed through. There's no it will it, the implications are much smaller, and I understand that right now. I will not understand it. So that is an interest-bearing tech debt loan. So I definitely make a difference in my mind, distinguish in my mind that kind of thing. And so and then these sorts of bugs like this are so great to give to junior developers that are just coming in, and or a new developer that's trying to come in and come up to speed. Like it gives them an opportunity to really dig into the code and understand what's going on, but at the same time, the consequences of making a mistake and fixing a bug like this are very minimal. They aren't going to go all through the rest of the code base breaking things. So that's why I will generally leave that out. Like there's another sort of interest-free loan out there, and that's like this doesn't resize. That is gonna not be harder, and it might actually be easier to fix in the future. So like from a tech debt perspective, it makes a lot of sense to just leave it as is, and we'll just fix it down the road, kick that can down the road. So there is a difference in tech debt. There's some tech debt that is interest will cost you more in the future to fix, and there's some that won't. So this was removal of future code, very interest bearing tech debt. And then, like I know that there's nothing else that cares about that. And if anything else does care about that, it needs to be fixed right now. It can be fixed right now, anyways. I added the name into the reactive form so that we will be able to add it. So when I'm in show edit mode, um, we can respond to changes in the name. Um, I removed these functions that are no longer matter, and then I updated the red update. This is something we learned in the light management, to use the mesh, to just use the whole mesh item instead of having to do the mesh dictionary and figure things out. I could just pass the whole mesh item in, and so I don't have to try to figure that context out. It's just passed in, nothing to figure out. So that's all these updates were, and the format labels exactly like light. So it might make sense to pull this into some sort of utility function. It is a duplication of code right now, but I do think that the future will be a little bit more like we'll know exactly what to do or what the consequences are. Right now, the label is identical um, on for all cases, so it doesn't make sense. Actually, I don't even think I need that. Let me see, because that was because I copied over the intensity. Let's see, add the mesh. Yeah, okay. So, and actually, that is a perfect example of like figuring out that doesn't break anything would be a lot harder. But since my in the future, since in my mind it just worked about it, and I remember when I copied uh, code over from the light manager into this one that I had inadvertently brought the intensity, which used that to. So like if you look in lights and you add light, and then you go to the edit and you expand this, that was for this formatting of this guy up here. That's why I needed that. But then I realized, oh wait, this they don't have an intensity. That concept doesn't exist in meshes. So there's a perfect example of something that was dirt easy to fix today and would be like kind of like a, oh God, I hope when I push this, it doesn't break some other thing in the future for somebody else. I had to do some styling. These guys by default are like 200 pixels long, which is way longer than I need for any of these things. This is what controls these. Let's see, add mesh. There's actually a hidden row in here, and that's this hiding of it and setting the height to 0 is the piece that fixes that. Let's see. In here, we added dynamic form controls. That's what these are. So if we're in raw mode, we just see this stuff, and if we're in edit mode, we see inputs. And then that's basically what this is for X position, Y position, Z position. So it's kind of nice because now you can just say, hey, change this to that, change this to that, and you don't have to open things up to update stuff. Oh, my alarm just went off. Um, so let's see, there's not a whole lot left. Okay, this is just where I deleted the old-fashioned form, and then this is where I added the expanded details in here. So remove the old stuff, bring in the new stuff. For some reason, I guess it makes sense because 111 is there, and I started deleting stuff, I guess, at 86. So it's like, hey, you deleted everything from 86 to 151, and then you added stuff from 111 to 121. Um, and then over here, I converted, refactored from using that dictionary that I deleted to using the mesh that is just there. Um, and that's really what this is too, is more just refactoring to use the mesh instead of the dictionary. Uh, and this is just deleting the old delete and edit and all that functions that used to be on the right of the old-fashioned forms. And this is all the directives that build out this table. And that's just an extra line. I'm just going to delete that. I actually worked at a place that required that extra line in their linter, but I don't now, so I guess there's no reason to keep that habit. Um, so, yeah, that's about it, guys. I think this thing's coming along great. And happy coding, everybody. Bye.